So, what if I told you that a shockingly detailed blueprint for our modern AI world, I'm talking automated factories, language translation, the whole thing, was laid out 60 years ago? And not in Silicon Valley, but deep in the Soviet Union. Yeah, let's dive into this because we are about to uncover the lost vision of a computer pioneer named Viktor Glushkov.
All right, let's set the scene. It's 1963. The Cold War is absolutely at its peak. The space race is on. In this kind of environment, science and technology, they weren't just for academics. They were seen as the key to building the future. And it's right at this moment that a Ukrainian academic, Glushkov, publishes an article that lays out a truly radical path forward. And this quote from his article, it really tells you everything you need to know about the ambition here. This wasn't about building a slightly better calculator. For Glushkov, this new science of cybernetics was a tool of massive historical importance. It was something that could revolutionize not just a single factory, but the entire productive power of a society. The stakes? Incredibly high. So here's how we're going to break down his incredible vision. First, we'll look at his core idea, his universal insight into how you could automate thought itself. Then, we'll explore the three massive blueprints that grew out of that: an economic brain, an automated worker, and even a digital mind. And finally, we'll look at his unfinished legacy and why it's still so relevant today. Okay, let's start with the absolute foundation of his entire vision. I mean, before you can even think about automating an economy or a factory, you need a theory for how to automate human intellectual work itself. And Glushkov, well, he had one.
It all started with this incredibly broad definition of cybernetics. You see, Glushkov saw this common thread. He believed that the way information flows and gets transformed in a computer or in the human brain or even in a national economy, it all followed the same fundamental laws. For him, it was this amazing, unifying science that connected all these fields that seemed totally different.
And from that unifying idea, he came up with a simple but, wow, powerful logic. He basically argued that any process, no matter how complex, writing a sentence, solving a math problem, could be automated in 3 steps. Step 1, turn all the information into numbers, digitize it. Step 2, break the process down into tiny, simple, elementary rules. And step 3, program a universal machine, a computer, to execute those rules. This right here, this is the basic logic behind pretty much everything, from your phone to today's most advanced AI. So, with that core logic in place, we can now get to his first grand application, building a national economic brain. The goal here was to use this new computational power to do something humans just couldn't achieve: perfectly optimized economic planning on a massive scale. And they had the tools to actually try it. The Kiev computer, which was one of their early machines, was a mind-boggling 200,000 times faster than a human expert with a calculator. This wasn't just a small step up, it was a total game changer in what you could even think about calculating, and therefore what you could plan. Just look at this example. To figure out the absolute best route for a 1,000-kilometer railway, a whole team of expert engineers would take months. And even then, they could never be sure they'd actually found the most optimal path. The Kiev computer, it crunched all the possibilities and found the single best option in 2 hours. And the results were just massive. That computer-planned railway? It turned out to be 10% more economical, saving 10 million rubles on just one project. In another test, they optimized sugar beet transport and saved 12,000 freight cars. You see, this wasn't just theory. This was real, tangible economic value being unlocked by computers. But you know, these early wins were just proof of concept for Glushkov's real goal: a single, unified, nationwide system for all economic data. Think of it like a real-time digital twin of an entire country's economy, constantly learning and optimizing everything. It's a vision of integrated, intelligent planning that huge companies and even entire nations are still trying to achieve today. Now, Glushkov's vision didn't stop at the 30,000-foot view. It went right down to the nuts and bolts of the factory floor. So his second blueprint was for the automated worker, using computers to directly control industrial processes, basically creating the smart factory of the future.
And again, this wasn't science fiction. By 1963, his teams were already out there deploying real experimental systems to solve really tough industrial problems. In steelmaking, they used a computer to control the super volatile Bessemer process, making it safer and improving the quality. In shipbuilding, they figured out how to fully automate the incredibly complex job of cutting ship hulls.
Each of these was a pioneering step towards the automated supply chains we all depend on now.
Okay, now we get to what is, for me, the most astonishing part of Glushkov's whole vision, what he called the digital mind. He saw that these machines wouldn't just plan economies or run factories. They would start to automate the very process of knowledge work and scientific discovery itself.
Seriously, just look at this list of his predictions from 1963. It's uncanny. He called for automatic language translation. Hello, Google Translate. He described systems that could automatically summarize scientific articles and search through patents. That's the foundation of every modern research platform. And he even saw computers doing creative intellectual work, like proving new math theorems or helping build new scientific theories, which is the absolute frontier that AI is just now starting to explore today.
So the big question is, if this vision was so powerful and so incredibly accurate, what happened to it? And this brings us to the final piece of his argument, which was about way more than just the technology. It was about the kind of society that would end up using it.
Now, Glushkov himself, he analyzed the social impact through the lens of his time. He argued that the exact same technology could have completely opposite effects depending on the economic system it was in. So, in a socialist system, he saw it as a powerful tool for human welfare. But under capitalism, his prediction was that it would lead to mass unemployment, that it would serve the goal of maximizing profit, and ultimately create a conflict between technology and human interests. This was his analysis of how the social framework could determine the final outcome of this powerful new tool.
Ultimately, though, his own view was actually deeply optimistic. He really believed that technology was fundamentally a human creation. He wrote that under the right conditions, these intelligent machines would always serve to strengthen human power and help us meet both our material and our spiritual needs.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating question for today. Glushkov's grandest vision, it was of a single, integrated, intelligent system working for society. But today, we have all these incredibly powerful AIs, right? But they're mostly fragmented. They're owned by different companies, they're all working on separate tasks. So you have to wonder, are we actually building towards that kind of optimal, unified system he imagined? Or is there maybe a lesson in his lost blueprint about the power of a more connected approach?